clearance practices back in January, following reports that President Donald Trump had given top-secret security clearance to his senior advisor and son-in-law Jared Kushner and others. Committee Chairman Representative Elijah Cummings said in a letter Monday the committee would begin authorizing subpoenas after the White House failed to voluntarily cooperate with its investigation. Cummings also revealed in the letter that the committee had conducted a detailed on-the-record interview with a whistleblower who handles security clearance determinations for some of the most senior officials in the White House and throughout the executive office of the president. The individual told the committee that she and other officials had denied dozens of applications for security clearances that were later overturned. She added that she was also targeted for retaliation after declining to grant security clearances based on long-standing national security protocols. Klein became a person of interest in the committee's investigation after NBC News reported he had overruled security officials to approve clearances for Kushner and dozens of others. On Tuesday, the state-run Algerian press agency announced in a statement that the country's ailing president, Abdelaziz Bouteflika, has resigned following weeks of protest. The 82-year-old's decision may have come as a surprise, since he previously announced plans to run for a fifth term. But the announcement of his re-election campaign was immediately met with widespread protests, leading Bouteflika to withdraw from the race and the government to postpone the election. Bouteflika first came to power in a 1999 election in which his victory was largely backed by the military, leading critics to say he won the presidency fraudulently. The election was so divisive that all other candidates had boycotted the vote. He was elected again in 2004, 2009, and 2014 amid continued claims that elections were not run entirely fairly. Recently, the president had been in poor health. He survived a stroke in 2013 that led to him largely vanishing from the public eye, and that led to rumors about who had actually been running the country in recent years.
Doug.
Exactly. Liberty Mutual customizes your car insurance, so you only pay for what you need.
Nice. But, what's up with your partner?
Oh! We just spend all day telling everyone how we customize car insurance because no two people are alike, so... Nemo gets a little confused when he sees another bird that looks exactly like him. Yeah. He'll figure it out. Only pay for what you need.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
Chicago's gun violence has been a talking point among presidents
It happens on the streets of Chicago every day.
Chicago is like a war zone.
and the media for years. In 2016, the city saw a historic level of murders. Violence is something some residents on the city's south and west sides have come to expect, but that doesn't mean they're used to it.
I think we make the mistake of thinking somehow the violence, people get accustomed to it or hardened to it or numb to it, but it stays with you. And in fact, it shapes you. And what I found is people I spend time with is they work ferociously trying to keep it from defining them.
Alex Kotlowitz has covered Chicago's gun violence for decades. He co-produced the 2011 film The Interrupters about a violence prevention group of the same name.
The only thing came to my mind was retaliate. They got to know they did the wrong person.
His new book, An American Summer, features 14 stories of Chicagoans grappling with the chaotic aftermath of violence in the summer of 2013. He spoke with us about his book and how there's nothing post about traumatic stress for some survivors.
Not to be all Terry Gross, but I wanted to start with an excerpt from here. I wanted, if you will, to kind of read what's highlighted here.
Sure.
I've tried to make it as easy as possible, so forgive the poor pen there.
Just what's underlined here.
Just what's underlined.
Okay, great. So Pharaoh, of course, is one of the boys I wrote about in There Are No Children Here, and when he came and lived with us for 6 years after the book came out, and there's this moment when he's going off to college, and my wife and I and our young daughter go back to New York to visit my parents, and Pharaoh stays behind to get ready to go. He's going to Southern Illinois, and he takes a cab from our house to his mom's, and when he gets to his mom's house, two guys yank him out of the cab, get him back to the cab. It's a robbery, and they end up shooting and killing the cab driver in front of Pharaoh, and he witnesses the whole thing. And so, and I've never really talked to him about it, and so this is some 20 years later that I'm writing about. It's here at this restaurant that I come to realize how much this incident is a part of him. In recounting that afternoon, Pharaoh seems in a different place. The violence is in his bones. There are so many like Pharaoh who carry the violence, who keep moving forward, enshrouded in its aftermath.
Tell me why it was the summer of 2013 that you kind of chose to focus on.
That was fairly arbitrary. I just, it was the summer I landed. I knew as a storyteller I needed some boundaries. I needed some scaffolding to tell these stories, and so this summer provided that. And it is, in fact, at the end of 2013, it was a reasonably tame summer by Chicago standards. And at the end of the summer, Jerry McCarthy, the police superintendent then, and Rahm Emanuel kind of declare mission accomplished.
We fixed it. It's all fixed.
Right.
We did it, right?
And then, as you point out, 3 years later, we had 795 homicides, almost twice what we had that year. And nobody can explain what happened, why that was.
Did you feel like it was important to give, viewers or readers who are in Chicago, not in Chicago, a pretty holistic view of what the landscape looks like here?
Right. Yeah. No. In fact, I remember during the kind of the height of the Black Lives Matter movement, there were all these kind of rumblings from people. Oh, well, why aren't people out there protesting black-on-black crime or doing anything about that? And I'm thinking, people are doing that. I mean, people are doing that every single day. They're out there marching. They're out there doing street outreach work. And so I think it's one of the mistakes that we make is somehow thinking that everybody's just kind of like turtles have pulled their heads in.
For Chicagoans like Lisa Daniels, that couldn't be further from the truth.
Because of the worst decision of his life that cost him his life, he did not deserve to just die.
After her son was shot and killed in a neighborhood south of Chicago, Daniels founded a center that focuses on restorative justice and healing all parties involved in a crime, including perpetrators and victims. Daniels' story of perseverance is one of many featured in An American Summer.
One of the common threads in each of these stories is that these people that I write about are not only standing erect in this world that's slumping around them, but some of them are moving forward heroically and pushing back. Lisa Daniels being one of them. I think a single act of violence around which the rest of a lifetime will revolve, and trying to, again, figure out ways it's going to shape you in some manner, but to not let it define you. And that's what you see in so many of these stories of people trying to do just that, not letting it define them.
"2020 Democrats are banking that progressive ideas, once thought to be out of the mainstream, will be key to winning back the White House.
Imagine, the establishment went crazy, media went nuts, still is. Imagine the United States joining the rest of the industrialized world and guaranteeing health care to all people as a right, not a privilege."
8 2020 Democratic presidential hopefuls gathered in Washington during the We the People Summit to discuss key issues like income inequality, healthcare, criminal justice reform, and climate change. It was the first major political forum for presidential candidates. Newsy spoke to 2020 presidential hopeful Julian Castro, who predicted overwhelming success for Democrats next year, which could enable the party to pursue the ambitious agenda outlined by the candidates.
I believe that on January 20th, 2021 at 12:01 p.m., that we're going to have a Democratic president, a Democratic Senate, and a Democratic House. It's going to give us an opportunity to do